Stand by. Oh, what's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Make your next thing a big one. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Sunday, February 27th, 2022. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Zelensky agrees to peace talks as Russian forces attack Ukraine's second largest city. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reportedly agreed on Sunday to send Ukrainian delegation to negotiate with Russia near Ukraine's border with Belarus. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, who allowed Russian President Vladimir Putin to use Belarus as a staging ground for his invasion, arranged the meeting. Russian forces pushed into Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, on Saturday and Sunday. But by Sunday afternoon, Russian forces had been repelled after the two sides exchanged missiles and engaged in fierce street fighting, said Ole Sinigubov, the regional governor. Emergency services in Kharkiv said a 9-story apartment building was hit, killing an elderly woman and bringing the total number of Ukrainian civilians' death to at least 64. This is according to Kyiv Independent and the Washington Post. Number 2, we did it twice and we'll do it again. Trump stops just sort of announcing 2024 run. In a speech delivered at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Florida on Saturday, former President Donald Trump stopped just short of formally announcing a 2024 presidential run. Quote, Democrats are going to find out the hard way starting on November 8th, and then again even more so on November 2024. They will find out like never before. We did it twice, and we'll do it again, end quote, Trump said, reiterating his false claim that he was the true winner of the 2020 election. Quote, we're going to be doing it again, a third time, end quote. Trump also repeated his assertion that Russian President Vladimir Putin is, quote, smart, end quote, but called Putin's invasion of Ukraine an, quote, atrocity, end quote. This is according to Business Insider and the Independent. Number 3, Germany to boost defense spending and send lethal aid to Ukraine. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz told an extraordinary session of Bundestag on Sunday that Germany must rebuild its military, quote, to protect our freedom and democracy, end quote. Scholz said the government will make a special investment of 100 billion euros in the military in 2022 and will increase annual military expenditures to at least 2% of GDP. Germany spent only 47 billion euros or 1.53% of GDP on defense in 2021. Scholz also announced Saturday that his country will send 1,000 anti-tank weapons and 5,000 Stinger surface-to-air missiles to Ukraine to aid in the fight against Russian aggression. This is according to Reuters and Axios. Number 4, studies suggest COVID came from a Wuhan market, not a lab. The, quote, lab leak theory, end quote, of the origins of COVID-19 virus has been dismissed as a conspiracy theory and seriously considered as a plausible explanation. But 2 studies released Saturday could shed new light on the question. According to the studies, both of which were co-authored by University of Arizona evolutionary biologist Michael Worobey, suggest that the virus likely originated in live animals sold at a market in Wuhan, China in 2019. Worobey said that in light of the study's findings, the theory that COVID originated in a lab, quote, no longer makes sense, end quote. Both studies are still undergoing peer review. This is according to the New York Times and CNN. Number 5, around 100,000 troops are fighting inside Ukraine, U.S. Defense Department's official says. An official at the U.S. Department of Defense said Saturday that 50% of the approximately 200,000 troops Russia massed on Ukraine's border in the months leading up to the invasion were fighting inside Ukraine, up from 30% on Friday. Russian reconnaissance forces probed Kyiv and engaged in street battles with Ukrainian troops Friday night. But the main force driving south from Belarus toward the capital city was still around 18 miles away. Russian formations are also pushing north from Crimea and west from the Russian border. This is according to USA Today. Number 6, conservative legal group slams Ketanji Brown Jackson. Carrie Severino, the president of the Conservative Judicial Crisis Network and a former clerk for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, wrote in a Fox News op-ed published Saturday that Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson is a, quote, politician in robes, end quote, who will, quote, rubber stamp, end quote, a, quote, left-wing political agenda, end quote. Severino accused Jackson of being anti-business, soft on legal immigration, and hostile toward the pro-life movement. She also attempted to link Jackson to Arabella Advisors, which Severino described as a, quote, liberal dark money network, end quote. This is according to President Biden nominated Jackson to the Supreme Court on Friday. If confirmed, she would be the first black woman to serve on the nation's highest court. This is according to Fox News and The Week. Number 7, Russia has reportedly detained almost 2,700 anti-war protesters since Thursday. Russia has detained 2,692 anti-war protesters since the invasion of Ukraine began on Thursday. Russian human rights media group OVD Info said Saturday. At least 1,370 of those protesters were detained in Moscow, but protests were ongoing in at least 27 Russian cities. On Friday, Russia began limiting access to Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, platforms on which protest organizers rely, in response to parent company Meta's refusal to stop fact-checking reports from Russian state media. This is according to CNN and the New York Times. Number 8, North Korea test ballistic missile. North Korea launched a ballistic missile on Sunday, its first such test since late January. The missile flew about 190 miles and landed harmlessly in the sea. Quote, if North Korea deliberately carried out the missile launch while the international community is distracted by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, such an act is absolutely unforgivable, end quote, Japanese Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi told reporters. South Korea's National Security Council concurred, quote, launching a ballistic missile at a time when the world is making efforts to resolve the Ukraine war is never desirable for peace and stability in the world, the region, and on the Korean peninsula, end quote. they said in a statement. This is according to the Associated Press and Reuters. Number 9, Colbert producer tapped to lead CNN. Chris Licht, the executive producer of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, will take over as president of CNN after Discovery Inc. acquires the network as part of its merger with Warner Media. The merger is expected to go through sometime in the second quarter of 2022, which begins in April. CNN's new streaming service, CNN Plus, is expected to launch in March. Former CNN President Jeff Zucker resigned earlier this month after failing to disclose a relationship with a colleague. Executive Vice Presidents Michael Bass and Amy Entelis are serving as CNN's interim co-heads. Licht also worked as executive producer of CBS This Morning and MSNBC's Morning Joe. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. Number 10, Number 10, SNL Cold Open features Ukrainian chorus singing hymn for their country. After a month-long hiatus for the Winter Olympics, Saturday Night Live returned Saturday with a moving tribute to Ukraine. The broadcast began with Kate McKinnon and Cicely Strong standing side by side. Quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Ukrainian chorus, Dumka of New York," end quote, they said. The lights dimmed, and the two cast members departed as the cameras pulled back, revealing a group of Ukrainian singers in traditional dress illuminated by soft candlelight. The chorus performed a piece called, quote, "A Prayer for Ukraine," end quote. According to one translation, the lyrics include, quote, "Lord, O the great and almighty, protect our beloved Ukraine," end quote. And, quote, "Bless us with freedom, bless us with wisdom, guide us into a kind world," end quote. This is according to NPR and Lyrics Translate. That's 10 things you need to know today for Sunday, February 27th, 2022. Thank you so much for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. Just trying to fill my head with the news of today. And if you like the sound of my voice, come along the journey with me. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Smarter. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.